Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio in the town of Geraldine, Alabama. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television. You can find us in the state of North Alabama right here on Channel 182 Charter Communications. And then worldwide, you can find us on Abundance TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Again, thank you so much for watching. I know you could be doing anything else, but you're watching us right now, and we appreciate that very much. I have with me now a very special guest. He's a good friend of mine, been on the show for years. His name is Alan Mendenhall, and it's always great to have him. He's actually an author, a speaker, and let's talk. Go ahead and tell folks what you do at the college.
Well, sure. I have kind of dual roles. So I'm Associate Dean at the Sorrell College of Business, and I am Executive Director of the Manuel H. Johnson Center for Political Economy. So I do external relations and public facing for the business school. And I basically run the Manuel H. Johnson Center, which is a group of economists. We teach free market economics. We work in the policy world, and we educate on the moral imperatives of freedom.
And I'm loving it. I really am. So let's talk for a few minutes, especially, okay, economics, okay? And this is in light of the new Green Deal. And so I've had, folks know you're going to be on the show. So I get questions from folks that know you're going to be on. And so this is about the new Green Deal. Does it make business sense?
No, it doesn't. And actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because we at the Manuel H. Johnson Center are launching a new initiative called Free Enterprise Scholars, and it's to teach undergraduates about good and ethical business, because businesses acting ethically in good faith follow rules, treat others with respect, and enable cooperation and trust among diverse individuals. So businesses provide value to society by producing goods and services that make our lives easier and better. So they don't need to adopt these social justice initiatives. But with this something called ESG that you're probably familiar with, and this goes right in keeping with sort of the green initiatives that you're talking about. But there's a company called BlackRock, and its CEO is a guy named Larry Fink. He's a notorious supporter of democratic politics, and he and other asset management companies tend to put progressive politics over the priorities of their shareholders. And BlackRock, for example, is the world's largest asset management company, and it manages things like pension funds and retirement funds. And so you could be, just for example, a public school teacher working in whatever state, and you are inadvertently funding some green initiatives. Even if you disagree with those initiatives, your money is being invested in those initiatives. And instead of investing it in places that would be more likely to yield yield higher returns, companies like BlackRock are choosing to invest in areas that are more speculative, more risky, but that align with progressive causes. This is, to me, highly problematic. It's not just bad business, but it's also unethical. It's using other people's money in ways that they would not support. And so this is an example of kind of woke business that we are seeing that is highly problematic and kind of under the radar. Most people aren't aware that these things are going on.
Yeah, they're definitely going on. And I have some real issues myself with all of this. Okay, so supposedly this is, supposed to help make the, middle income American earners, have a much better life. And I'm not seeing it all. First of all, I want to talk about the cars. And so we're supposed to receive some type of incentives, and I'm not seeing anything that's going to help. First of all, the cars are more expensive, and somehow I think in this Green Deal, something like you get some kind of a 30% discount. Well, 30% is nothing when you're paying $60,000 for a car that, I mean, is it,
Well,
are
yeah,
we ready for it yet? Are we ready?
yeah. There was someone in the Biden administration, I believe yesterday, and I can't recall who it was that said it.
Yeah.
was taken to task because she was saying, look, if you put up all these solar panels in your house, you're going to get all these, tax, tax
Tax
incentives
credits.
and all tax.
Okay, it looks like I may have lost Alan Mendenhall. So, okay, all right. Let's go on ahead. I'm going to talk about a couple of our sponsors right now. Okay, you're back. Yeah, there was this long distance where I didn't see you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't. What was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing you started talking about someone in the administration for Biden, and that's maybe what's happening. Because I've noticed every time we talk about Biden, something like this happens.
Yeah, yeah, we're
Okay,
being spied on. Yeah, well, the tax credits and things like that that are that are introduced for example, solar paneling.
but they make no
Most
sense.
most ordinary people can't afford to do that. The astronomical costs of solarizing your house and doing all that kind of stuff, that's just, that's prohibitively expensive to many people. And so
Yes.
to say that, oh, you're going to get tax incentives and tax credits and all these sorts of things for doing things that you can't afford to do really isn't very appealing, and it's very paternalistic.
That's like somebody, and I know people who do this on credit cards. They'll get a credit card and they're told they'll get 5% back off of purchases. Well, as long as you keep it within what you can afford, that's fine. But saying I'm going to go ahead and spend $3,000, I'm going to get 5% back anyway on my card makes no sense.
Yeah, right. That's a good example.
I mean, there's no sense to this at all. And by the way, I know some folks who have those panels and they hate
Mm,
them. They're telling me
yeah.
that the maintenance on these are incredible. And what you're not told is they can't get like, and these folks all live out in the country, okay, where you're going to get debris and stuff from trees, sap, and all that kind of stuff. And the maintenance on them alone are not worth it.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I'm really not surprised, and I'm sure the maintenance is expensive as well.
Yeah, we need to tell the whole story. I mean, what
Yeah,
this is all about.
I mean, the thing is, everybody wants a cleaner environment. Everybody
Everybody
wants to live
does.
in a healthy world, but
Uh-huh.
when government tends to intervene in these things, it usually causes more problems than good. And let us not forget that government is a higher polluter than private business to begin with.
Can I say this? Okay, so this is something really blows my mind. This is when they're going to have this big meeting in Iceland or somewhere, and everybody comes on their jets. I mean, why don't they do Zoom like we're
Mm,
doing? I mean,
probably
if you
Davos.
really
Yeah.
believe in it,
Yeah, I saw some figure about what Steven Spielberg's jet has cost in the last 2 weeks or something, and it was, you know, it was the cost of a house in Auburn, Alabama.
I, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's nice to um, be able to afford hypocrisy and to charge everybody else with wrongdoing while you get to basically buy off goodwill. That's the one thing we see with a lot of this wokeism is that you have billionaire and extreme millionaire CEOs who are adopting woke policies just to get themselves off the hook. If you can buy that kind of goodwill, then you avoid media scrutiny, you avoid the Twitter mobs, and you sort of play good citizen, and people let you off the hook so that you can go and do whatever it is you want with your business that may be unethical, and people will turn a blind eye because, oh, you towed the acceptable progressive line, so we're going to not scrutinize your company. And if your company tries to stay on the sidelines and not choose sides, then you're going to be subject to intense media scrutiny by the legacy media, and and by the Twitter mobs and such. So it's a really odd situation that we're in right now. We're in a strange period.
Yeah, we really are. I'm gonna shock you here. There is a liberal that I actually like.
Oh,
I really do.
really?
Yeah, but not because of his stance, but because he really believes this stuff. And that's
Yeah.
it's the actor Ed Begley.
Okay.
He
You'll have to
really
say more.
he puts his money where his mouth is. I
Interesting.
mean,
Well,
he really does. Look him up. I mean, I can at
okay.
least I can respect him
Well,
because he
sure.
really believes this nonsense.
Well, if people have, true convictions and they're willing to follow them, I don't know. I don't know this person, so I don't know his story. But
Look him up. Yeah, I mean, it's
okay,
really weird. I mean, he rides a bicycle almost everywhere he goes. He has his garden. I mean, he does the solar panels. He does all this stuff. You won't catch him flying on a jet anywhere. I mean, he really believes this stuff, and he really lives it. Now, I
well,
can
yeah,
respect that. I
yeah. If
can
he's
respect
not
that.
going to be a hypocrite, absolutely.
Yeah. So I do respect that movie star. One of the few I
Interesting.
respect.
I'll have to look him up.
He was a movie star back in the 70s,
Oh, okay. So this could be
way before you.
this could be a play to get famous again. Is that what this is?
Yeah, no, 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 he doesn't care. I mean, he's got his millions. He could care less. Yeah.
Oh,
So, but anyway, I do like that. I do respect that. But yes, this new deal where we're supposed to be saving money because you're getting tax breaks. First of all, I would never get my taxes done or have anyone do my books who's a Democrat. I wouldn't. And I'm going to tell you why. They're not going to be looking for my best interest. Now, I want somebody to do it right, and I want someone to do it legally. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, yeah, Donna, go on ahead and spend $50,000 for solar panels on your house, but do it because you're going to get like 5% back on your
yeah.
taxes.
It
That's not going to work.
doesn't add up, right? Doesn't add up. Yeah, and with the massive influx of new IRS workers, who knows what who knows what the government will be looking into next.
Let's talk about that because I mean, if you've been cheating on your taxes, you're going to get caught up with this time. If you're conservative, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it does raise the question. Our friend Becky Garrettson here in Alabama, who was looked into, and she was running the Wetumpka Tea Party, and she fought back with sort of the selective and the investigations of her organization. Uh,
uh-huh.
so you don't know, and it sounds as if some of these IRS workers, these new IRS workers, um, will be some of them armed workers, or I mean, this
Yeah, they're
seems
going to carry. Yeah, it's kind of
yeah,
scary. Mhm.
it's very strange, right?
Yeah, I think we're living in a really strange time. And I will mention this. I thought the IRS could only go back 7 years, but they can go back much farther than that. I was a member of the Tea Party in Charlotte, North Carolina. Sarah Palin came in, by the way. She's nothing like they say she is, a very smart woman, very
Mm,
smart. Nothing like the media says she is. But anyway, so Phil and I were living in Charlotte, North Carolina. We moved back in 2013 to Alabama. Phil retired. Supposedly, he's never going to retire. So we're running this business now. But so I get this notice through the IRS sending me this notice telling me I owe 10 grand. This is after we had moved back. And I'm going, for what? And by the way, be very kind to these people. Don't be a smart aleck when you're talking to them on the phone. So I was, yes, sir, no, sir, and all this stuff. When I was talking to this guy on the phone, I said, I'm not understanding. It's not saying what it's for. They
yeah.
said it was a previous business we had owned, and this was back in the year 2003. And I'm getting it for 2013 is when I'm actually getting this letter. And they're telling me I owe over $10,000. I said, well, break it down for me. I'm not understanding. Am I ignorant? What is this? And they
Yeah.
said it was from 2003. They said that we didn't turn in W-4s. It's a guesstimate. The guesstimate was $3,000 that they said we owed. But then with interest and penalties, it turned into over $10,000. So my
Whoa.
question was, I thought you could only go back 7 years. Trying to be as
Interesting.
kind as I can. They went back way past 7 years, and I had to prove my innocence. And I'm going to
Oh,
tell you something, Alan. I'm glad Phil did not listen to me on this. So when we were moving, we had boxes of stuff, for taxes and things like that from businesses that we owned. And I
yeah.
said, "Oh, you can get rid of that. They only go back 7 years." Well, Phil said, "I don't know. I'm taking it. We're going to bring it to Alabama with us." Thank Jesus above he did, because
Wow.
all the proof was in the pudding. They were hoping that we had thrown everything away, but Phil didn't throw everything away. He had all the proof that we had actually paid this.
Wow. That is astounding and terrifying.
It is. So, my suggestion to everybody out there listening to me right now, you better save everything. Going back to when Moses was on the ark, if you can go back that far. I
Well,
mean,
that I keep hearing commentators on television and radio saying that when the IRS hires, some 87,000 more people over the next decade, that they will be targeting not the most wealthy people and not the richest corporations, but people who are sort of middle class that have some economic means, but they're easier to target because they can't afford to spend tens of thousands of dollars on legal representation, but they
uh-uh,
can afford to pay they can
uh-uh.
afford to pay a $10,000 penalty if it comes to it. But it would be a massive hit to their well-being, and that's just a frightening thought that
And that happened. It happened in 2013 when we moved back here, and I really believe it's because I was so active with the Tea Party in Charlotte, North Carolina. I really,
wow.
and this is back during the Lois Lerner thing, also.
Yes, that was just a scandalous time. Like, I mean, shockingly scandalous to the point where people should be outraged. Just still thinking about how
I would think.
wild that was. But just people getting targeted by the government for their political beliefs, the government getting weaponized against it. And it's to this point where the federal government has amassed so much power, and
Mhm.
each of these executive agencies with their own regulatory bodies have amassed so much power that it's no wonder our politics are dysfunctional and so uncivil, because people are so afraid about what will happen if the other side takes control over that massive federal apparatus and weaponizes it against them. The stakes have just gotten so high. And that's why people are dysfunctional when it comes to politics now.
Mhm. Well, do you think it's that, or they think, well, people won't vote for Trump because Trump's the whole reason they're doing this? I mean, is there something else? Is there another side to this?
I don't know, but I think what the left doesn't realize is what they think of Trump is what much of the right thought of Obama at the time. I mean, Obama, what people tend to, portray Obama as if he was sort of a civil, level-headed man, but he was very arrogant and said horrible things about the other side, and was very immature and unprofessional.
Mhm.
And he had a very supportive legacy media behind them that wouldn't report on it. And of course, you expected the right, sort of the right wing media to report fairly on him and to criticize him as it did. But the divide started under Obama. It didn't start under Trump. The real division started under Obama, and Trump magnified them, and Trump splintered the right in a way that turned some conservatives against him, some of the quote unquote rhinos, and some of the Mitt Romneys, and some of the Bushes, and those types of people, the Cheneys. They became marginalized in the conservative party.
Mhm.
Um, and they may be more politically homeless now, but the divisiveness of politics really started under Obama,
Mhm.
because when the federal government, when that much power is used against political enemies, then everybody's going to want to fight over the federal power, because A, they don't want to be victims of it. They know what will happen if the other side wins. But B, they want to make sure that they have control over it to weaponize it. We really need political decentralization, and I don't know whether we're going to get it. I see Supreme Court opinions, even the Dobbs opinion, that suggests that there is some potential for political decentralization on the horizon. But I'm not sure that we have a federal government that is working towards the dismantling of its own power, and that's terrifying, because I think the fracture that we see in this country is unsustainable, and eventually something's got to give.
Mhm. Something has to definitely give. Yeah, we can't keep going on this way. This is ridiculous because we know just from common sense and running a common household, you cannot spend more than you're bringing in. I mean, there
No,
is no way
that's
you're going to
right.
be out on the streets, and I mean that can't happen. But I saw a glimmer, and this is when Liz Cheney she just lost the election here, And it wasn't by just a few points either. I mean, what the guy was like, or the lady was 60, I think, and she was somewhere around 30, something like that. So it was a pretty big loss. And she also said, I think she wants to run for president against Trump. Do you think she's got a shot?
Not at all. It's outrageous. I don't understand the world that some of these people live in, where they
Uh-uh.
are
I'm not getting it.
surrounded by echo chambers. Tell them that that is a good idea. It would be an utter embarrassment, and what a way to like sully your name and ruin any other political avenues you might have in the future. I just don't understand it unless it's just a get rich scheme where you want to start sitting on boards of major corporations and this is what you've got to do. You've got to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is how I purchase absolution for being a Republican. I'll go anti-Trump and now I can get rich sitting on all these boards." I mean, maybe that's the selfish explanation for
Let
it.
me tell you what it reminds me of. When I was going to school, we would have what we call a talent contest. Well, a bunch of bully girls one time bullied this one girl who could not sing. Please, Jesus, help. She could not sing. They had her actually thinking she could.
Oh
So she
no.
gets up there and makes a huge fool out of herself. And this reminds me of that. It's like you've got those bullies on the left who are telling Liz Cheney she's all that in a bag of chips, and she's not.
And she's
Somebody needs to tell her.
somebody's got to tell her the truth before she makes a fool of herself. Yeah, that's true. And the other thing is we get so I mean, we are so immersed in our own domestic um, policy and issues that we forget what's happening on a global scale. I mean, our neighbors to the south in Latin America, for example, are being bought off in some ways by Putin's Russia and Xi Jinping's China, which are going into these countries and subsidizing infrastructure and buying off goodwill because they realize that the future is in these developing countries. And they are very sensitive to, for example, US involvement in Hong Kong or Taiwan. But we are not sensitive in the same way when it comes to what China or Russia is doing in Latin America. And that's our neighborhood. Those are our neighbors globally, and we can't afford to have them fall into socialism or communism. We can't have them afford to fall into what Venezuela has done and completely decimated its entire economy, because we need those countries to be stable and strong and supportive of our interests as we should be of theirs. But if we lose those countries, we box ourselves in, and that's not good for the West generally, but in particular for the United States specifically. And we need sort of a Southern Hemisphere strategy to make sure that we are reaching out to those countries, which, by the way, share a lot of our values. They share Christianity
Yes, they
for
do.
instance, still a dominant religion in those countries, and we need to make sure that they're developing side by side with us, so that if we have major geopolitical shifts, we have important allies in the region.
I think that's ultimate. I mean, we have to. Do you feel like other countries are just not respecting us too well right
Well,
now?
we're certainly not the superpower that we once were. I mean, it's questionable whether China and Russia have surpassed us. The thing that is to our benefit is that we still have more respectable friends on the world stage. I mean, when you ask, who are China's closest allies, it's not the most savory, figures. I mean, okay, we're allies with North Korea. We're allies with
Mm,
Russia. Not a good look. Like
mm,
the United States still has allies with Japan and with the United Kingdom and with Germany and with France and Italy and Brazil and
mm,
all kinds of nations that command a lot of respect on the world stage. And China lacks that still. And it's the type of thing that just can't be bought. I mean, China can buy a lot of goodwill. And by the way, China owns a lot of land in Alabama, and it can do things like
true.
that to sort of amass its wealth or its potential for increased wealth, and it can buy our debt, it can buy our U.S. debt. But you also, at the end of the day, need friends to call in when things really hit the fan,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure China has the best friends.
I, I'm not saying it either. And let me mention this. I have another guest who's on the show. He comes on about once a month. And he's actually from the States. He's from California originally, but he lives in Canada now.
Okay.
And so he gave me a little history lesson last time he was on the show. But I did ask him this. He has friends all over the world. And I said, now, from your perspective, what do other people, what does just a regular people from other countries think about us right now? And he said, I hate to say this, but you're the laughing stock right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's really changed a lot. So I
Mm-hmm.
lived abroad during the George W. Bush years, and so I was studying in England in 2003. I lived a short stint in Brazil in 2007. I spent 2005 and six living in Japan, and during this time, it was sort of unquestioned that the United States was the leading global superpower. And people didn't like us because of the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War and some of the more hawkish military foreign policy of that period.
Mm-hmm.
That is no longer the case. And it has nothing to do with the exercise of military power. It's just, in general, the diminishment of American stature abroad, unrelated to the military. It's the fact that we are trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, and it's just we have debt problems. We have we have had leadership issues. We cannot manage our alliances in the way we used to. NATO has grown in part because of growing weakness of the United States. There's
Mm-hmm.
no longer a sense that America will be able to help if something were to happen. So NATO's got to strengthen its alliance, and Europe's got to focus on Europe. So there's definitely a lot going on, and it's hard to say which direction it's headed in.
Well, and it's all out there because we've been known as we were like the big brother of everybody. We could, we would take everybody in, because I'm gonna tell you, a disaster happens in other parts of the country or other parts of the world. Let's say, I mean, you got your church folks who get in there and they really, they want to help, and that's what our country was actually built on, is helping each other, and helping folks in other countries. It didn't have to be just the United States. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's almost like this chaos is going on right now, and nobody knows what the answer is.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. I think the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic,
That helped
said,
80.
yeah, that didn't help anything really. I mean, uh, you've got. I remember when we used to talk about, like, when I was a kid, balance was like an actual reality. But now the federal government spends more than it takes in, and we have to borrow money to cover the deficit, and got other countries debt, and we've got all kinds of deficit problems. We've Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you better when you're closer up.
Yeah, well, I just got my internet was unstable, so that. But healthcare costs, a complicated tax system. We've got um, you know changing demographics and population shifts, migration shifts. So there are just a lot of complicating factors that are problematizing our politics. And we aren't really looking at political solutions that are based on sort of sound business principles or sound economics or common sense, even. We're looking at identity politics and focusing on matters of racial injustice and gender discrimination or alleged inequities. And these are all important things, but they're only exacerbated by a bad economy, by bad economic decisions. Those things are going to cause more divide because if you don't focus on improving lives and institutions and making sure that the conditions and institutions are in place to bring people up and to help them flourish and to help them innovate and to enable entrepreneurship, then everything else is going to just get worse. The social pathologies will just worsen. And so we need to sort of hit a reset button, but it may be too late for that. There may not be a reset button to hit anymore.
Yeah, because it can't keep going like it is. Alan, we're going to have to go into a commercial break. And
Okay.
once I go into the commercial break, you can go ahead and take yourself off of the video if you'd like. But we'll be
Sure.
back in just a couple of minutes. So you guys
Okay.
hang in there, okay? We're going to be right back. We're back. My name is Donna Thizell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio. In the town of Geraldine, Alabama, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television two different ways. In the state of Alabama, North Alabama, you can find us on channel 182 on Charter Communications, and that's been awesome. And yeah, I want to thank Mike for letting that happen. Then I want to thank our Mr. Pats for letting us be on Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire as well. So we're really glad to have that platform. And Rob Pats, thank you so much for making that happen. Absolutely. And so all things are going great. Got Alan Mendenhall with me right now. And Alan has been a friend of the show for years. How many years has it been,
Gosh,
Alan?
I think I first came on the show in 2016, so maybe 6 years.
Wow, when you're having fun, it just does not seem like it. I'm telling you. But thank you for being on the show. Before we get started in the next segment, though, you are a writer and you've written several books, periodicals, that kind of thing. How can folks find your writings?
Well, my website is www.alanmendenhall.com. That's ALLENMENDENHALL. And I have numerous articles posted there, and my books are available there. And you can search for my books on Amazon or something like that as well.
Absolutely. So glad to have you on the show, and hope you're selling a whole bunch of books because of this show. You're worldwide now, so folks are going to be listening to you from Australia pretty soon. So we're really
Oh,
excited about that. Yay, yay, absolutely. We're talking about, wow, I still have this faith thing going on. I really think it can all turn around if you got the right person in office, but people have to vote and not give up. You know, here in the state of Alabama, we had a runoff election. I think about 12% of Alabamians voted. That's
well,
ridiculous.
well, we had talking about all vote counts right here in my district with Jay Hovey and Tom Watley. It came down to one vote. And the question was whether to count the one vote or not, because if it counted, then there would be a tie. And if it didn't count, there would not be a tie. And there was some question about whether the lady had actually registered or not. They let her cast a provisional ballot, and the
Uh-huh.
question was whether to count her ballot or not. And she had gone to the DMV to get a driver's license and had indicated that she wanted to register, but there was some reason why she got turned away. She had to go back. I think she forgot her glasses or something like that. So she had to
Mhm.
leave, and and then she never came back to finish her registration. So the question was she registered or not? And that was a sort of an unresolved legal matter. But that one vote is what the entire election turned on. Isn't that wild?
That is crazy wild.
If they had tied, it would have come down to a coin flip. They would have flipped a coin to figure out who was going to represent out of the Alabama Senate from this district.
Well, I'll tell you, several years ago, almost the same thing happened right here in DeKalb County. And it was a lady running for office. She was on the Democrat side. I'm not going to tell you who she was, but she lost the vote. And she said she lost, I think it was by two or three or something like that, but her kids didn't vote. I don't think I would have been dumb enough to have told my mother that I didn't vote. And
Yeah.
I said, I bet your Thanksgiving and Christmas was really interesting that year, wasn't it? She said, oh yeah, honey, it was very interesting. Uh-huh. Had her
Sure.
kids voted, she would have won.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. But that just is it's really important that we vote. Whether you think the whole thing was rigged last time or what, you still got to go at it. I'm going to vote until I have no other chance, no other choice. I'm always going to vote.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but the beauty of our system is if you want to exercise your right not to vote, you can do that too. I know there are countries where voting is mandatory, like in Brazil, for instance. And
Mhm.
that results in a ton of corruption because then you get a bunch of people who don't really care at all, and they'll just sort of stick around out by the polling place and see who will come and slip them some money. Here, buy, you know, here,
Uh-huh. I can
take
see that.
here's $100 bill. Go in and vote for so and so. All right, you got
Uh,
it. That kind of stuff will happen because they
that's
have.
how it, yeah. And then you have people even now, right here in the United States, they'll go, I think I'll go that way. I mean, you,
Yeah,
people who literally do that. You got to do some research. That's so important.
I was voting in a primary one time, so it was limited to one party, but somebody brought his child in with him to vote, and he was. I mean, I can't tell you how old the child was. This has been several years now. I would guess 7 or 8, and he was letting the child pick the candidates. Like, which one do you want? You're like this, and the child would just pick, and he's like, "All right, we'll do that one." And
That's insanity.
it was
That is total insanity. I've seen people who've let their kids choose a fragrance for their cologne. Well, any kid's going to go, I don't care. That one, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's a sacred thing. It's really, really serious. And it's so serious that we do research.
right, yeah. Everybody needs to be fully informed before casting a vote. It really is important. And there was time in America when you had to walk up on a platform in the town square in front of everybody and drop your vote into a jar, and so everyone was booing and jeering, and but you had to be public about your vote. And um, I'm not so sure that that's not the worst thing. I mean, what if everybody had to publicize who they voted for? Would they vote differently? I don't know. It
I'm
would
not
be interesting.
ashamed. I voted for Trump both times. And I'll have to tell you, it's one of the early ones. So we were at a meeting here in DeKalb County. It was a Republican thing. And that's been what, about 11 people were on stage at that time. And I liked most of them, who were running for office, but I really liked Trump better. And the reason I liked him is because he was loud and he didn't mind saying what he was thinking. And he was actually saying what the rest of us were thinking. We just didn't want to say it.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, I was for him. So it was me. They actually had everybody. It was almost like that. They had everybody stand up. If you're going to vote Rubio, and then people were standing up who were voting for him, and so it come to Trump. It was me and one person, and it was almost like they were shaming us because,
mm-hmm.
and somebody actually asked me, "Why are you voting Trump?" And I said, "Because he's saying exactly what the rest of us are thinking."
Yeah, and people voted for Trump and didn't admit it. And that was a large reason why he won. He had a lot more support than people knew about. People were too ashamed to say it. I remember that primary season. It was exciting because it was so improbable that Trump was rising to the top of those
I don't
candidates.
think he even thought he would. I think he was
No.
just doing it as a publicity stunt.
And then he won it, and everyone thought, "Oh gosh, now what? Now how are they going to win the?" And then when he won won the general election, everyone was just shocked. I mean, at this point, because we have, hindsight, it seems normal that Donald Trump was president, but it was a real shock at the time that that was even possible. I can't believe that just happened. And now now we're wondering, is it going to happen again? I don't know.
I think it is. I really see this revolution. I really, really think it is. Now, are they going to try to suppress it? Yes. I
Yeah,
really do think they're going to try all they can. Like this thing about, going to his home and the
the
FBI and all
FBI
that.
raid.
Goodness
Yeah.
sakes. If they really had something, I wanted to ask you a question about this too.
Mm.
So, okay, you got your FBI in, used to be highly respected. And there are some good ones. I know there
Sure.
are. But I'm having a real difficult time with this. Okay, so if I really had a smoking gun, I'm with the FBI, and I'm going to go into Trump's place. I got a smoking gun. Do you think it would have taken me all day? I mean, don't you think I would have? I'm pretty sure it's right here. I'd have been out in an hour saying, "Here's the smoking gun, everybody. It's right here. I got it."
Yeah, I don't know that inside of law enforcement in that way, but
Uh-uh.
I had heard on Fox and Friends or something that the allegation is somebody that was in the Secret Service in Mar-a-Lago had tipped off the FBI, and
Mhm.
so I don't know. I really don't. I really don't know. I don't know what to make of the whole thing. But
It just seems odd. If you really had a smoking gun, you'd be proud of it and you did it out there. And it would not have taken, like, how many hours was it? I forgot how many hours.
no, it was several. I mean, it was. I forget how many hours, but it was through in the cover of darkness. It took a long time.
Yeah, but I
Um,
think I think Trump played a good game of chess on this. I think he was wise to be the first one to get it out on social media.
well, I think that's correct.
I don't
And
think they thought he'd do that.
well, one thing is somebody who's kind of an academic and takes an interest in concepts and ideas. One thing that I found encouraging about this situation is that both left and right are arguing that this episode is all about the rule of law, the concept of the rule of law. Well, thank God, at least we think that this concept is a good idea. At least we can agree that
Just keep that.
there's such a thing as the rule of law. And the left says, oh, no one person should be above the law. You
Uh-huh.
can't let somebody be
We're
above
glad
the
you think that.
law. And then the right says, yeah, there's no agency. The FBI is not above the law just because it can't just do it. But at least we agree that there should be something like the rule of law should prevail, and that nobody's above the law. At least there's something. There's a starting point, and maybe there's more promise in that than we realize.
Sometimes all you need is a starting point
Yeah,
where
for
everybody
sure.
agrees,
Yeah,
even if it's something dumb. I mean, at least
yeah.
everybody's agreeing or on the same page about that. So I just think that's pretty awesome. But I don't think there's anything. I really don't. I think the whole thing is to keep him out. And but they haven't been able to do it. I mean, okay, first of all, you get kind of calloused after a while. We've heard this how many times? We got the smoking gun. We've heard this
Oh,
how
yeah.
many times? We're like,
After the Mueller
enough
report and
already.
after the Mueller report and after the impeachment hearings and all these things, it starts sound like, the boy who cried wolf story. It starts losing its effect.
I think it has. I mean, I'm even seeing people on the left going next. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, yeah,
yeah,
and I just really think if you found it, you'd be parading it.
yeah. I mean, CNN's ratings tanked after Trump's presidency because they had no one to go after anymore. They had nothing to like. Oh, now we have to report on Biden. No one's going to watch that.
Bless his heart. Bless his heart. And you know what that means when a Southern woman says bless his heart.
Yeah,
So I mean, okay, actually he's lasted longer than I thought he would. I really thought after 6 months he'd be gone. That what's next for him? Do you think? I mean, is he going to make it?
well, there's not a whole lot of next left, I think, for him. He's up there in years, but the question is whether he runs. And you get all these Democrats that are getting interviewed and they refuse to answer the question. What do you think Biden should run another term? This I'm focused on the next. I'm focused on the midterm elections. I'm not even thinking ahead to
Oh, believe
2024.
me, they're thinking.
but but that's it's the question. It's all these behind the scenes power plays that have to take place. It's tough when a president is, the head of the party is the president's head of the party. It's tough to sort of untangle that because everyone starts working their way to the core and trying to get as close as they can to the power. And it's hard to get all those people that have latched on to the center of power. It's hard to pull them away to
Mhm.
try to put a new person in. So it would take the people on the inside trying to create some sort of other path for somebody else in order for Biden not to get the nomination. But
Well, maybe Liz Cheney can switch over to be a Democrat. Maybe she could be their person.
something like that.
I would love to.
After
I'd pay
Trump,
for that one. I'd
I
pay for
mean,
that
yeah, I mean, after Trump getting the nomination, becoming president, something like that is not even outside the realm of
one. I
possibility.
don't even doubt anything anymore.
I
I
know.
still say Hillary Clinton's going to throw her name in the hat again.
No, man, that would be terrible.
It'd be like a
For
wrestling match. You'd see the rematch again with Trump and Hillary. I mean, I would. I'd do pay per view on that one. I'd actually pay for that one.
oh well, I kind of still wish I had seen the fit that she threw when she found out that she had not
I
won
wish
the
I could have seen
election.
that.
I
Yeah,
I think we would have seen Hillary's true self
the real person.
in all its glory right
Uh,
there. That would be the Hillary. That's what you'd have to deal with if you knew her closely every day.
hey, have you heard that Biden has a double?
No, I haven't.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah, there are pictures that are out there. Of course, anybody can Photoshop and do all kinds of dumb things on that, but there are and just like the ears are different. It's like there's different stuff going on there. Hillary had one. Remember that time when she passed out in the car and they
Yep.
had to put her in the car, and then she goes to Chelsea's apartment, comes out looking 20 years younger, thinner. All of us women were saying we want to go to Chelsea's apartment because it did wonders for Hillary. She looked so much better when she came out. But I mean, she had a double. So I mean, you have to wonder, you
Yeah,
know,
I don't
does he
know.
have a
I really
double? But
don't.
but even his double is not doing so well. I mean,
Yeah.
so if he does, that just so okay. So something happens to him. Do you think we'd be better off with our VP? I mean, would we be better off with her?
No.
I kind of hope they keep giving him blood or whatever they're doing. I'd like to see him last at least until the election.
Yeah, I think she would be more aggressive. I think with Biden, that's a tough one, to be perfectly honest. I don't. You're definitely not going to be better off, but the question is, are you going to be worse off, or are you just going to be in equally bad state? I just don't know with that one. I think Kamala is. I think she's probably more ideological on her own accord, and that Biden is more deferential to advisors at this point.
Yeah, but
And
I kind of see he is able, I think, to put the sale plan out there better than she can. There's something about her that's hateable. I mean, there's just something. I think he can at least act like good old Joe for at least long enough to put his presentation out there. I'm not sure she could get through the presentation.
yeah, like people don't quite take him seriously. They think he's just a little nutty or whatever. But her, she means it. With
Yeah, she means it. Yeah,
Biden gets a
heaven
pass on
forbid,
things.
heaven forbid, Pelosi gets in. I mean is
Yeah.
that true? So if you lose the president and the VP, would
Yeah.
it be Nancy Pelosi?
Speaker of the House, yeah, that's the third in line after that. That's correct.
Uh, think about that.
Yeah,
So
the line of succession isn't pretty, no matter how you paint that picture.
I can't put lipstick on that pig and make it look good. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So, okay, I'm going to talk about this. I don't think I ever asked you this question. This is back when Trump was president. I think he still is, but anyway, when he was president, State of the Union address, and she gets the papers, State of the Union, and she rips them. Is there something against the law? I mean, she's worldwide doing it. Nobody does anything about it. Is there not something that's not quite kosher about? I wouldn't have done this with Obama. I wouldn't have ripped the papers. I mean, is there not something a little against the law in that?
Well, it's unseemly and unprofessional. I don't know whether it's illegal or illicit in any way. I'm not aware of any statute that
It
proclaims
just
it to be,
seems
but
some had that been someone do that to Obama, I think they would be under the prison.
well, yeah, the allegation then would have been that it was racist.
Yeah, you could have blamed it on that. Okay, we only have a few minutes left in this segment, but I did want to ask you a question about there's because we're talking about the state the country is in, and it's going to take it probably wouldn't take Trump that long to do it, but it's going to be a while if we can ever get back to any kind of a normal again where people feel confident about the United States and the state we're in. What are your thoughts about a flat tax or a fair tax? Could that be the answer?
Um,
Or would you have enough
Maybe.
people who would go along with it to vote it in?
Well, I sort of think it's an impossibility, and as far as that goes, I do think a more doable fix is to simplify the tax code. I remember in the gosh, was that the 2016 presidential? I think it was when people were proposing different um, changes to the tax code, and that may have more support than a flat tax, fair tax, that kind of thing. Not that those things are particularly bad ideas. I just think that you know some it's tough to garner support for those types of initiatives. I think you'd be not that simplifying the tax code isn't related to those things either. Like, but in terms of getting something that's a pure fair or pure flat, what you're going to end up with is a series of compromises that look like a simplified tax code anyway. So may as well start talking about simplifying the tax code.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that's worthwhile. You're still going to have the same problems, which there are going to be loopholes and everything else that
Somebody's attorney is going to figure out a loophole, no doubt about that.
yeah.
Absolutely. But what I like about it is everybody is paid. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody, if you're illegal, if you're a drug pusher, if you're a prostitute or whatever your job is, everybody pays. If you're here illegally, you're going to pay as well. I like the concept of it. I just wish it could happen, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll still have the same problem with illegals, which is figuring out if they're undocumented. I mean, how do you know if someone is or isn't paying taxes if there's no record of them?
Well, they're paying taxes. You would abolish the IRS. And what would happen is businesses you would pay a particular percent, 22% or something like that, 24% off of anything that's new that you purchase, like a new house, a new car. And I'm sure there would be adjustments to please everybody so that everybody would feel like they're, got their piece of this pie. But as far as the way that goes, and then also if you're a legal citizen, we're talking about a prebate. It would be kind of like, and it would depend on the size of the family. So it would actually be a good thing for families to be together. Captain and Tennille is a good example of this. The Captain and Tennille, you probably don't know who in the world they are, Alan. They're from my era. And there's a music team. And so husband and wife, and they got a divorce so they could make the ends meet. They said, the laws that are out there are not really friendly for married couples. And so what would happen here is it would actually keep family members together. So if you're an American citizen, then you would get a prebate, which actually would be whatever the size of your family is. So if you have, 5, 10 kids, whatever, it would apply for that as well. You would get extra money. It would be kind of like a prebate, something kind of like a credit card is the last I heard, or a debit card or something like that. So you wouldn't have to pay taxes on the first, say, up to $1,500 per month of your income.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, they've made a lot of additions to this. The more I'm hearing about it, the more I like it. But the problem is would it ever get off the ground? Because you've got your political heads, I don't think would like to see this happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you're also talking about which taxing authority is this something being done at the state level, at the federal level, or
Starting out state?
Because if it would be state, then you have the possibility of instituting it, but you're still going to have federal taxes to pay that aren't state. Like
there's still a lot of questions that I have
yeah.
about it. Alan, we've got a little bit over a minute left in this segment. Tell the folks again how they can find your books.
Well, the easiest way is just to go to my website, alanmendenhall.com, ALLENMENDENHALL.com, and find them there, or just search my name in Amazon, and some of the books will pop up that way.
Absolutely. Alan, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Donna. It's fun to be here.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you again so much for watching Afternoon Drive Home. You're awesome. Again, thank you so much for watching. And we'll have another show coming up with another awesome guest, this guy right here. We'll see you later.